just a hack. He's just an absolute hack. And he gets his ass kicked by his teammates every week. It's just, it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to Hack City. Joe DeLeone, Sean Anderson, two former college football players from the University of Rhode Island, delivering you a recap of FCS football action from Week 6. Today, we're going to be talking about Western Carolina surviving a shootout between them and Chattanooga, 52-50, and then Montana putting up a little bit of offensive production, 31-23 against UC Davis. All that coming up and more on today's show. Sean, can you just share with our listeners a quick word from BetOnline?
I would love to. It was going to be my opening point anyways. I had a feeling that the Cowboys were going to get dusted and busted on Sunday night. I had a good feeling. So I alternate spreaded the Niners to 6.5. They're originally 3.5. Craziness. But I alt-spreaded them to 6.5, give myself some better odds. I could have alt-spreaded them to, 30.5. That would have worked.
You should have.
But we'll take the little 6, and you know where you should do it at? BetOnline. BetOnline gives you access to the best football promotions and contests available anywhere online. Head to their website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. If you have a hunch that the Cowboys are going to blow it in prime time, make a little wager at BetOnline. Make a little wager. Remember to use our promo code BLEAV, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus in your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Well, Sean, speaking of blowing it, we actually had not a similar week to Week 5, but we did have a couple shakeups this week. We had a couple things that happened where teams that we thought were really good ended up completely stumbling against opponents that they maybe not should have dominated, but should have beaten, and that would have helped build the momentum for their season. The CAA is a complete mess, which we're going to get to in a second. But the first one, dude, that happened from this week, SIU got manhandled by Youngstown, 31-3. I don't know what happened here, man. This is not one of the games that we're going to be fully recapping, but SIU has been so dominant the entire season, and they laid an egg. Half asleep, apparently. No offensive production, nothing. Complete manhandling by a team whose mascot is a penguin.
Yeah, this came out of left field. Youngstown has been good. They've been a fine program this year. But SIU looked like they were really making a push. And this is just a straight-up dud from the Salukis. Just a dud. How do you go into next week now? I mean, you have to flip it around. You're still in it, but holy hell! I mean this is just a what the hell? This might be a burn the tape real quick, and we'll just try to get right back on track.
One of the things that was really hard for my ballot this week, in which I think we're going to do some sort of a ballot show. I'm going to do it with you this week. I don't want to move them back that far because they still have a really impressive resume. So we'll kind of talk about that a little bit later on. Still SIU, tough loss. Youngstown starting to remind us that they are a quality college football program in the FCS ranks, deserve to be a top 25 team. Incarnate Word narrowly escapes Southeastern Louisiana 33-26. I mostly threw this on there because of the barnyard ass play that happened. I think it was a 2-point conversion where there was an attempted reverse or whatever they tried. Ball comes flying out. Ball goes just bouncing all over the place. And an Incarnate Word defender picks it up and just hawks his way to the end zone for some points for Incarnate Word. That had to have been one of the funniest plays of the season.
I mean, I thought you were putting it on because Incarnate Word has been rolling this season and CeeLo was a quality opponent, and not just because you wanted to use the term barnyard, but I like it either way. Incarnate Word, I think, still in my top 10 after this. They kind of have to.
Yeah. I'm not making any movement. Southeastern Louisiana has been very underwhelming, which is a huge disappointment. Dude, this was the weird one. Do we need to start talking about NAU being a wagon?
Somebody teach me about NAU because they are causing problems this season. Somebody needs to teach me about them.
NAU beats Weber 27-10. Now, when I was doing my ballot, I was like, do I need to think about NAU for a second? Then I pulled up their schedule, and they don't have a good resume. But I think it legitimizes some of the other wins that they've had. I don't know. The whole thing is just weird. I took Weber out. You can't have as many losses as they've had, and then also to lose 27-10, big yuck.
Yeah, Weber, weird season. I mean, genuinely weird. They have a really good win over UNI, and then they get 40 bombed by Montana State, and then lose to Northern Arizona. So Weber, another weird season from them.
So here's the thing with NAU: stomped out by North Dakota, stomped out by Utah Tech, beats Montana, loses narrowly to Sacramento State, and then beats Weber. They are just a problem causer. They have no intention of going to the playoffs.
No.
They have no intention of doing anything good. It's just we're going to screw everything up for everybody and make it confusing.
They're just the terrier that is fine fighting the pit bull or the Great Dane or whoever. It's a dog that does not care the size of the other dog. A really weird team.
UT Martin ends up beating Eastern Illinois, which was a team that was banging on the door for me as a top 25 team. They had a really good record. They fall in overtime 28-27. I think that for me legitimizes how good UT Martin is. They have to really get that signature win because their schedule's been a little soft. They do have a beat down on Houston Christian. I think it was like 66 to something, but still overtime victory. Nice win for Eastern Illinois, or sorry, for UT Martin over Eastern Illinois.
Yeah, I think UT Martin was floating around my low 20s. I think they still stick around the low 20s on my latest poll, if I recall. They're winning games, which is important, and they're winning and they're putting up a lot of points. But I don't know if they're ready to, if I'm ready to push them up into the teens yet. They just seem like another couple wins off from that.
Yeah. They haven't really played anyone, so it's a little bit of a tough sell. They did play highly ranked Houston Christian, though, so that legitimizes their placement in the top 25.
Yeah.
Last one is one that I called and one that I'm very happy about. North Carolina Central beats Elon 34-23. Been very impressed with North Carolina Central. I also went as far as to say this last week. I wasn't really buying in on the Elon smoke. I think they just had a really good game last week, and NCCU has just been way more consistent than Elon. Them losing to Gardner-Webb was why I wasn't really in on Elon doing anything. My main takeaway from this, because we already knew that North Carolina Central was good, the CAA is up for grabs. It is completely, absolutely up for grabs. Whether that ends up being, I think it's going to be a race between Villanova, Rhode Island, and Delaware. I think that the other teams are kind of picking each other off right now.
God, yeah, that's a mess. North Carolina Central is very good, and they might have a player coming up on Fat Stats later in the show because this player balled the hell out against Elon.
Balled the hell out. All right. Western Carolina 52, Chattanooga 50. It's like this was a tree that fell in the forest and nobody heard about it. Just kidding. It was really hard to track down any footage of this game. I will be completely honest. The Western Carolina Twitter account didn't even post video of their own game. So had to go through some creative means to get eyes on this one. It was really exciting. There was a span where 3 touchdowns and a field goal were scored in the final 7 minutes of the first half, which gave Chattanooga a 27-21 lead at halftime. I believe that the time of possession, too, was insane. It was like 40-something for Chattanooga and 18 for Western Carolina, which is even crazier that Western Carolina won. And it kind of plays to what we know about both these teams, where Western Carolina can score in an instant and Chattanooga, a little more of a grind you out, has some good running backs. There were a lot of long scoring plays. Every time that you looked back at, okay, what led to this touchdown? It wasn't first and goal. It was a 35-yard rushing touchdown or a 25-yard something receiving touchdown. A lot of long plays that led to scores. The Catamounts at the end of this game end up getting a pick 6 of all things to give them a 49-42 lead. Chattanooga ends up scoring and then goes for 2. They lead 50-49. So this thing is just full chaos mode, full college football chaos mode. Inevitably, though, Western Carolina, as we have seen them do already this season, marches down, hits a 32-yarder to win it because they've got a great kicker. Their offense is pretty strong that they can just move the ball down the field when they need to. End up winning this game 52-50. You were saying before the show, it's pretty impressive that Western Carolina can throw up this many points. And I will definitely agree with that.
Yeah, anytime a team scores 50, even if they give up 50, the team, if both teams are scoring 50, the winner is going to earn a good amount of respect from me, because it is hard to put up 28 points. You put up 52 points, you're not having an offensive problem, and especially if your defense, if it's a true shootout just like this, and you're able to come out on top, that's pretty resilient. It's very similar to a 6-3 victory in the same aspect of being able to hold on and stay calm, move the ball when you need to, and just thug out a win. I mean, the turnovers hurt Chattanooga. Their quarterback Chase Artopius, 2 picks. That hurts. Cole Gonzalez didn't have a pick. I'm sure Chattanooga has other plays and other times in this game where they could have scored or they could have moved the ball differently. But those 2 interceptions are probably going to be what they're talking about in the meetings. How did we lose this game? We put up 50 points. You had 2 turnovers.
I think that, first of all, the turnovers, that does you in these types of shootout situations. So that's absolutely a really good point there. But the other thing with this, I think it's really impressive that Western Carolina scored as many points as they did. But shocking, I'm going to say something negative about them. I'm a little fearful of them giving up 50. They hadn't really shown this much weakness, but for them to give up 50 to not exactly the most offensively potent team, Chattanooga's a good team, but I don't know if they're a 50-burger type team for you to be giving up that many points. That down the line is going to cause some sort of a problem. I don't know if it's against Furman. That game is going to be really critical for the long-term outlook of FCS football and in their conference. But on top of that, when we get to playoff time, whoever they play, I don't really have a ton of faith that they're going to be able to stop somebody. This is kind of like the chaos of USC, where they just hope that they get one stop on one drive or the ball bounces their way, that they're going to finish the game out. And that's not a very effective way to live and die by. That is how you end up losing a stupid football game. And the good thing with FCS football, you don't need to run the table. You don't need to go undefeated. They can have a couple of losses and they're going to be fine. But I just think that that's a concern. Some people were saying in my comments on the stats bout that I posted that a Montana State fan was saying, I'm worried if we have to play Western Carolina. I wouldn't totally be, because I think you're going to be able to move the ball. And that's something that you're not exactly the most explosive offense. You're not a 50-point offense. If you're seeing this, I'm licking my chops if I'm any team with some good offensive playmakers.
I think really one true X wide receiver is going to be dangerous for a Western Carolina defense. I mean, Chattanooga's Javen Watley, 11 catches, 231 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Hate to break one of the fat stats here. What happens if you play a team that has 2 of those guys?
Yeah.
What happens then? And I know Chattanooga kind of does have 2 of those guys because they have Watley and they have Elam Ford. But you can't give up 231 yards to one player in a playoff game unless you want to get sent home immediately.
You will be.
They just have to scheme up true playmakers opposed to just playing. I think they were just playing like a base defense and saying, this is our scheme. We're going to stick to it. We're going to try to bend, not break. And then credit to them. They still won the game, but you're going to have to improve in that area. They are going to have to improve there.
Yeah, there has to be some sort of adjustments that are made, because the product that was on the field, 50 points, it does spark a little bit of fear. And again, the reality here is that Western Carolina, they've had the advantage of playing most of their difficult schedule already. They only really have Furman left. So they're going to finish the season with a really good record at the end of the year. But adjustments do have to be made, so you don't end up having that stupid loss that holds you back. Montana versus UC Davis. I jokingly said this, that Montana had some offensive production for once. I don't think that is a very appropriate description of it. They
Oh,
scored
you don't?
31 and they beat UC Davis 31-23. If you look at the score on paper, sure, that looks like a great score. 31 points. Wow, great job. I think that offense is so unbearably horrible to watch. They are just dry paint. I will say, though, defensively, they're as good as they usually are. We talked a lot about their defense. They've got a good running back, Eli Gilman, who had the 85-yard rushing touchdown that helped them really seal the game in the third quarter. That was probably the best offensive play that I saw from the entire game. I feel like every time I was watching any series from this game, it was like, oh my God, are they actually going to move the ball on this drive? Are they going to get into a scoring position to actually score? I understand now why Montana has struggled. It is because of that offense.
Is Montana, you called one team Purdue last week. Is Montana Iowa? You have to wonder.
I think that they are. I said Idaho's Purdue. I said that they have Jeff Brom. Purdue,
that's right.
Yes, they are Iowa.
That's
right.
They are. You know what? They did enough to stay in it, which was good. We talked about how it was going to be tough sledding for Montana because their schedule is hideous. They have a gauntlet, and they dug themselves in a hole, and they're going to have to pull themselves out. And credit to them, they got the first step of digging themselves out of the hole. Like you got to credit a win. UC Davis isn't a bad team. Putting up 31 points is 31 points. But, I mean, we're all just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Like right now, it's just sitting up there waiting for it because they still have to play many good teams. Might be their last week ranked. It really might be.
Yeah, so you bring up a really good part of this. Again, defensively, they're a really strong team, and I think that if you get a couple nice rushing plays from Gilman, like you can score and be fine in a position. And they throw the ball fine. It's just not at a level in 2023 where I'm fearful of anything. I think that they earned the right to be ranked this week. And anyone who sees my ballot and gets upset over that, you're not looking at the big picture. It's a good win, and they're 5-1.
Yeah.
I put them at 25. I think it's a fair place to put them. And as you're saying, what's the rest of their schedule look like? I'm quickly pulling it up here. So they play Idaho.
They have Idaho, Sac State, and then Montana State in the next 5 games.
So they're going to finish with 4 losses, and they're going to make the playoff again.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. They're going to make the play. If they have 4 losses,
I don't know about that.
If they finish out and they have 4 losses, book it. They will go to they will make the playoff. And that's not me saying they deserve to go to the playoff, to be perfectly clear. They are going to slop by with probably 2 7-point losses and a 15-point loss to those opponents, and they're going to make the playoff. It's going to happen.
They shouldn't. They should not make the playoff if they lose to Idaho, Sac State, and Montana State, unless they go to overtime with each of them. They better be brutal, crushing overtime losses that is like a coin flip, or else we just got to chalk it as Montana didn't make it this year. Boo-hoo, so sad.
But, okay, the counter argument that's going to be made is the teams that they lost to are Idaho, Sac State, and Montana State, and their top teams. It is what it is. Fat stats.
Yeah, not much defense this week. Really, really a lot of fat stats, and this was a lot of really good stats that I had to leave on the bubble also, that just couldn't make it in. They weren't fat enough, too healthy for the club. Let's just start it off right here. Harvard quarterback Charles DePrima, 9 carries, 152 yards, 3 touchdowns, also went 12 for 29, 209 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Okay. All right, man. Go crazy. Holy Cross running back Jordan Fuller, 18 carries, 147 yards, 4 touchdowns. Central Connecticut State running back Elijah Howard, 23 carries, 257 yards, 1 touchdown. He also caught a ball for 20 yards. Fordham running back Julius Lowridge, 28 carries, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, also caught the ball 4 times for 50. NC Central quarterback Davius Richard, 11 carries, 114 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, was also 21 for 35 for 171 yards and 1 touchdown passing. North Dakota State wide receiver Zach Mathis, 6 catches, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns. Quick math on that yards per catch. I don't know, Joe. What is that? 30? Like 25? Something like that? Don't matter. South Dakota running back Travis Thice, 26 carries, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was also integral in that win over North Dakota State. Mercer wide receiver Ty James just decided it's his day. 14 catches, 285 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nobody could cover him. Maine wide receiver Joe Gillette, 8 catches, 169 yards, 3 touchdowns. Richmond quarterback Camden Coleman. We'll just let that name be that name. 25 for 36, 300.
I think he's a freshman, by the way. I think that kid's a freshman, by the way.
Then this is definitely a fat stat if this is a freshman doing this. 25 for 36, 365 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 picks. Western Carolina running back Desmond Reed went off 15 carries, 211 yards, 2 touchdowns against Chattanooga. But Chattanooga quarterback Chase Artopius, 29 for 45, 399 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. We already mentioned it, but Chattanooga wide receiver Javen Watley, 11 catches, 231 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 more to go. Stick with me, people. Central Arkansas quarterback Will McIlvain, 31 for 44, 397 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. And to close it off, where else will we go but South Dakota State? Running back Isaiah Davis, 20 carries, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns. Play some defense.
Yeah, no one played defense this week. I think my pick has to be Watley, man. That yards per catch average and the 4 touchdowns, that's silly. That's a silly stat line.
Yeah, I'm a yards guy.
I noticed we don't have a repeat. We don't really have any repeats this year.
It's mixing up. There is not it's not every week we're getting a Lindsey Scott. Like we're not getting that this year.
There's no Bailey Zappi.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just seeing how it goes. I'm going Ty James from Mercer. 285 yards is crazy. And he's a very good player as well. So there's your fat stats, people.
Fat stats, stay fat at Joe DeLeone at Sanderson Radio. We'll be back with more. Enjoy the rest of your week.